Awesome. What the heck happened to you?
This is what would have happened to whoever tried to tackle Marshawn Lynch.
Okay. Touche. I think first of all, gosh, what a great day for our program. You go into recruiting and you have a year to recruit. I remember a year ago this time doing this day and talking about Adoree and Juju and Damian and all the excitement of that class, when in reality we knew how important this class was going to be, getting this a really quality group of guys that could come in and fulfill a lot of different position groups, and I really think we did that. We really addressed every position group. I believe of the 24 players we signed, 13 of them are defensive players, some of which we'll talk about have an opportunity maybe to come over on the offensive side of the ball. 11 of which are then on the other side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball. I think as you could probably tell, there was real emphasis placed on size and speed, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You look at the front seven, all of those guys have great height. The defensive front, I think the shortest defensive lineman we recruited is 6'4". They're all 280, 290, 300 plus. The linebacking core, they're all about 6'3", 6'4" body types, and then even into the secondary. All those DBs are just about 6 foot and or taller. So we really try to get more length on the defense, more size, more range. And then on the offensive side of the ball, same thing. When you look at the two JC wideouts we signed, and Isaac and Daquan, really good length and size at the wide receiver spot. But then when you look at the running back position, there's a real emphasis on speed. You look at Ronald Jones, Dominic Davis, Sedware, all possess the ability to take the ball the distance at any point where they're at on the field. So all in all, I think we addressed a lot of the things we wanted to address, just from a sheer number standpoint, so that everybody understands. Philosophically, our first goal is to take care of Southern California and to take care of California in general, and I think we really did that. It's a credit to our coaching staff that they were able to identify, in our opinion, the top talent in Southern California, and solidify it and get it locked in. The next piece to this philosophically is that the moment we get on an airplane to go out of state is we're going to recruit players that we deem have the potential to be first-round draft picks. And that's why you go get a Chuma Edoga in Atlanta, Georgia, or a Ronald Jones in Dallas, Texas, or Osa and Porter in Utah. That those guys have the potential to be that. But we're going to make our living in Southern California. So when you look at the 24 guys, 18 of which are from California, 6 from out of state, that's about the right ratio for us. About 3/4 of our kids from the state of California and about 1/4 of those guys from out of state. That number's always going to vary some given year to year depending on what our needs are, but that's about the right ratio we're looking for. I would say this is great. It's great to get the recognition of having the #1 class in America, and all those things are great. But more important to me was the individuals that we recruited. These are highly competitive kids with great character. And now the goal for us, and now the challenge for us, the race begins tomorrow to get these guys prepared to play this fall. And the challenge for us is to develop these guys not only individually but as a team, because this is the ultimate team sport. It's not about one individual or two individuals. It's about the team and meshing these young players with our current roster so that we can become the team we know we're capable of being. And I know I made the statement at the end of last season that I really believe our future is ridiculously bright, and I'm not backing off that. I think that we signed a great class. A lot of these guys are going to contribute immediately for us and have an immediate impact on our success. Some of these guys, it might take them a little longer, which is okay. But ultimately, this class is going to win a lot of football games here at USC, represent USC really well, and so will the next class and the next class and the next class. And so that's what's most important. That's what's exciting about it. And couldn't be more pleased. I'm happy for our staff. I know how hard these guys worked, and not just our coaches, but everybody involved in this thing to make it all happen. And now we got to get these guys ready to play. They get here in summer. They'll start working out with our strength and conditioning staff. We get them in August. We get as fast as we can go, 29 practices to get them ready to play Arkansas State. So with that, fire away.
Coach, are you surprised at the success you had in this recruiting class, and what would you say is the key to that success?
Well, I think in anything, Jim, I don't care what business or what industry you're in, it's about relationships. It's about the personal relationships you make, and we make it we put a real emphasis on that. I think that's why there's such an importance in Southern California. We can be around these kids more. They can come on our campus. They can come to practices. Your access is so much better than when you're 2,000-3,000 miles away. That being said, even Chuma, even Ronald, even said, we just worked our tails off to develop a personal relationship so they felt invested in the program. And I think with all these guys, that's probably the biggest key to it all.
Almost immediately after the season ended, after Ohio State won, they put out these too early, preseason polls for next year. You guys are in the top 5 in a lot of these. This class today is going to only increase the expectations. How do you approach that? How do you deal with that?
I think first of all, as I've said to these recruits, I've said to our current team, I'd probably remind myself some. We all chose to come to USC. We weren't forced to come here. We chose to come here, and we chose to come here to be the best. USC provides us the platform to do that. And so we're not going to shy away from what people expect us to be. Ultimately, that's a long ways away from now. We're just in off-season conditioning right now. But the fact that people think that we have a potential to be that, okay, now what are we going to do about it? And that's really the approach that we're taking with it.
This time last year, you were coming off just really sweating out the Adoree Jackson thing. You guys really kind of in the dark about that. The last 48 hours between what happened today and Porter, were there any situations like that? Or was this a little calmer in terms of you kind of had an idea what was coming?
Nowadays in recruiting in college football, I sweat everything out. I don't take anything for granted. We saw it today with a couple other kids at different universities and stuff that other schools were going through. So all in all, until the papers come through, I'm sweating. But the end result is I think everything we thought could occur. If you go back to 48 hours previously, what I thought could occur happened exactly the way we thought it could happen, and that's a good feeling to know that the types of kids that we brought in to our program, of the type of character that they have, that they held true to their word, and we didn't have to, all of a sudden start fighting for them again at the 12th hour. These guys were solid with us and then held true to exactly what they said they were going to do.
Can you talk about the linebacker class?
Yeah.
As far as, it's big. It seems like a different breed of linebackers than what you guys
Yeah.
really have.
You know what I'll do, guys? I'll hit each position group just because I'm sure we'll get other position groups hit. So I'll just kind of go through each one. We'll start with the DBs. I think, first of all 4 of these guys are very athletic, rangy players. Isaiah Langley is a potential of we're going to look at him some on the offensive side of the ball when we get in training camp. He's a potential a wide receiver type body, but he is a fantastic corner. Obviously, Iman Marshall, big physical corner, press, man-to-man type guy, which is something, as we talked about last season, we wanted to be more physical in the secondary and wanted to play more press man coverage. I think Iman potentially gives us that down the road. Yakili Ross, again, another big physical corner, almost 6'1", but also a guy who can play wide receiver. The U.S. Army All-American game, they played him at wide receiver in that game, so he'll get a shot to look at him over there. And then Marvell Tell, a really good-looking safety who what I like about him, the game I went to, not only did he play safety, but then he went out and played corner man-to-man on the best wide receiver on the other team. So he gives us that versatility we talked about at the safety position that we were looking for. Safeties that can play the run, be physical, but also play more man coverage against all the spread teams we're seeing. On the defensive line, this is a big physical, good-looking group. Jacob Daniel, Rasheem Green, Noah Jefferson, Kevin Scott, Christian Rector, all of these guys, big, long, strong. And I know we talk about Leonard leaving this year, but probably more importantly, if you look at our defensive line depth chart and you look at how many seniors we have on it that are going to be leaving after this season, that's why there was such an emphasis on this defensive line this year. That's why we took so many in this year's class, because we know what's going to be leaving after this season. So some of these guys will have an immediate impact on our team this year, but more importantly, these 5 guys are going to have a huge impact moving forward in 2 years. The linebacking core, you're right, that there is a bit of a difference. We wanted taller, longer, rangier type bodies. Porter Gustin, John Houston, Osa Messina, Cam Smith, all of them, for as big as they are, they're really good athletes. Porter Gustin was a quarterback, plays basketball, throws 90 miles an hour as a pitcher. John Houston, a really good athlete at linebacker, great range. Osa Messina, plays tailback, tight end, running back. Both Porter and Osa, we're going to look at some on the offensive side of the ball as well to potentially have a role for them there too. And then Cam Smith is your typical middle linebacker that I really felt like we needed on our roster. We needed a big, physical, tough middle linebacker who can rush the passer through the A-gaps, and Cam does that for us. On the offensive side, the three linemen that we got really answered needs, in my opinion, two of which we project to be tackles in Chuma Edoga and Roy Hemsley. Both good, long, athletic guys. Roy's only played a couple years of football, was a basketball player. Chuma really polished, but the tackle spot was big for us to develop the depth. And then Cole Smith as a center. Obviously, Max Turk has another year to find a guy who's just got center in his blood. His dad, Doug, who's just a fantastic player for years with the Rams, and he's got O-line center in his blood. He reminds me a lot, quite honestly, of Ryan Khalil when we took Ryan a few years back. So really cool to have him. The two QBs I love. Ricky has just been a rock with us, committed to us early on when I first got in the job, and has been fantastic. As we all know, in my opinion, the quarterback position is the most important position in sports. Obviously, from the football field, that's why we felt like we needed a second. And Sam Darnold just blew us away. He was a guy who was injured his junior year. Came to camp this summer and absolutely just blew me away. One, with his athleticism, two, his competitiveness, and then three, just what his potential could look like. So I think we're in great shape with those two. Talked about the running backs, I think, already, but all these guys, big home run hitter types. Dominic Davis might be the fastest guy in the state of California. Ronald Jones might be the fastest guy in the state of Texas. And said where all he did was lead his team to a Texas State championship. All those guys, I think, they're different, where Dom could be somewhat of a slot for us, play a little bit receiver and running back. Ronald, the real home run hitter, and Sed, the little bit more between the tackle physical runner. So we got a good mix there. Maybe the most important guy in the class is Tyler Petit at tight end. As we all well know, we've got some depth issues at tight end right now. Tyler, a guy who didn't commit to us early on, and we just didn't give up. Coach Tuiasosopo did a great job of just not giving up on the kid. A fantastic athlete at 6'4", 236 pounds, whose future I just think is ridiculously bright. So love him. And then the two JC kids, which we talked about, Taquan Hampton and Isaac Whitney at wideout. Big, long, strong receivers, your typical wide receivers that we'd like to create isolated one-on-one matchups with against corners. So all in all, again, I think we addressed a lot of our needs. We identified the guys that we wanted, and we went after them and ultimately got them.
Steve, Porter, one of the stories that came out of recruiting Porter in Ohio State was he wanted a game plan for a national championship or whatever. What was that game plan you gave him?
Well, I didn't have to – I didn't go in with that, Dan. I always went in pitching our brand, and I think that we have an amazing brand here at USC. It's an amazing product. If you were in sales, which really in recruiting we are, this place is unbelievable. The history, the tradition that we stand for, the quality of education that you're getting now. I think Max Nikias has just done a phenomenal job. I mean, this campus is just buzzing. The power of the degree and life after football. And then ultimately the current players on our team, the current roster, and then the recruiting class and how all that shapes up. To me, I don't have to go and saying this is how we're going to win a national championship. I think the national championship is a byproduct of putting all those things together. And Porter figured that out, and he's going to be a great leader for us. I mean, this guy has got it written all over him. How quickly that occurs, we'll see. I don't think anyone would have envisioned Juju Smith being one of our leaders halfway through the year last year, and that happened. So some guys have that innately, and it happens quickly. Some guys, it might take a year or two, but I think this guy's got it in his blood.
Coach, you said he could play offense. Is he going to be playing basketball?
I don't know about basketball. I would imagine that Coach Hubbs is going to want him to be somewhat of a closer for him, as he was hitting 93 on the gun last week and hadn't thrown the baseball in about a month. So he's got a big live arm, and obviously there's a history here at SC of football players going over and playing baseball. I know it hasn't been as recent, but some really good football players have been on that baseball team over there. So I know Coach Hubbs is chomping at the bit.
Coach, how much of a factor is that you've had true freshmen playing last year when it comes to recruiting guys?
Well, I think it helps. I think it points to we're willing to play them, but we're not just going to throw them on the field if they're not ready to play. So It gives us some validity of what we're saying in the home, that we're willing to play these guys if they're good enough to help us win. But it also points to maybe some of the lack of depth on our roster, that you're going to get more opportunities, especially in practice, to improve, to show what you're capable of, to take the coaching to get better at certain aspects of your game. And I think that plays a part. All these guys want to play. Nobody wants to come in and say, hey, I'm redshirting. But we have to be smart, and we have to put these guys in the best position to be successful, not only this fall, but in years to come.
Coach, can you tell us a little bit about the situation with Lance Mudd coming out of Cal Poly?
I can't comment directly on that, but Lance is, I can only comment on potential recruits, and Lance is a guy that could potentially, that we're looking at to transfer over.
How does this experience this year compare to last year, when you came in and you had like a month or so, and then this time you had a whole year to kind of plan things out?
Well, I think last year you come in and I look at the class and it wasn't perfect. I think sometimes you have to make really quick decisions when you only have about a month's time. And we were forced, our hand was forced a little bit because we had to take 4 mid-years. And when you have to take 4 mid-years, you only have about a week on the road in December. A lot happened quick. This year around, we were a lot more calculated. I think everything that we did was very calculated. And it turned out, honestly, I wish I could say it any differently. It turned out exactly how we wanted it to, and we couldn't be more happy.
Steve, Ron Marshall talked about the other guys that are here as part of the reason why he decided to come. What does it say about the health of the program that you're able to get a guy like that without even an official visit?
Well, I think the biggest key to it is players want to be around really good players. That goes without saying, and not just really good players, but good people, guys that are in it for a common goal, for the right reasons. And I think when you guys have been around our guys enough to know these are really good kids, man. I hate referring to them as kids because they grow up so quickly. But these guys all came here to be the best, and they came here to win championships. They didn't come here just to come here for 3 years and then go on to the NFL. I really believe we've shifted the mindset here to we're here to win championships, and the NFL is a byproduct of those championships. And the better we are as a team, the better opportunities they'll have down the road. And I think that gives itself off when a kid comes on our campus to a practice or on an unofficial visit or on an official visit for that matter. That then these guys have the right mindset. They're in it for the right reasons, and I want to be part of that.
Coach, with the excitement and the high expectations and the high ranking of this particular class, how are you going to temper everyone's vision of being too excited about it?
Well, our players, it's going to be easy. We're up at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we can start running and doing all those things. So for our players, that's the easy part, and that's really where my focus is, quite honestly, Jim, because that's what I can control. For our fans, I hope they're excited about SC football. I hope they can't wait to buy season tickets and get to the Coliseum and want this thing to be special. That's what it's about. That's what college football is about. But we have to do our part. We've got 7 months to get ready. We've got to do our job to make sure as we're prepared mentally, physically, and emotionally to put the best football team on the field every Saturday that we take the field. And we didn't do that last fall. We were still growing as a program. And then there's other issues that we have to get fixed too, as it's been well documented. So this is one piece to the puzzle. But if it creates and generates some excitement about our program for our fan base, I think that's great.
When you were here before, you guys had some dynamic players, but at the same time, really physical, really good defense. Do you feel like you might have the building blocks here for something?
Yeah, I think you're right on. I felt like at times last year we got pushed around a little bit. I think part of that is when you're not subbing guys, that doesn't help. And two, we didn't play with I don't know what the right word is, but enough stout for me. I didn't think we were stout enough at times. Whether it even was down the field, of not getting off blocks as well as I would have liked in some of the bubble screens and perimeter screens and different things of that nature. So we need to build a football team that has a potential to be a bully. And I think this class, when you look at this defensive class especially, there's the potential there. Now we have to develop that, and we have to develop the skill sets, the mindset, and all those things. But to be a really good defense, you need to be a bully, and that I'm not saying that in a negative tone. But when you look at really good defenses at any level, they've got a bully mentality, and so it comes from a mindset, but it's also you have to have the physical tools to be able to do that.
The flip side of that might be Talk about Ronald Jones and how he changes.
Ronald is a dynamic player. You know, what Ronald gives us, you know, a lot like what Buck and Justin and Trey, when he gets back, is they're very versatile. One, they can run it, but two, they catch the ball really well out of the backfield. Ronald catches the ball extremely well. Ronald has another gear. You know, he's probably going to run low 10.3s, if not dip into the 10.2s this year in the 100. He was thinking about not even running track. I said, Bud, when you run that fast, you have to run track. I mean, that high school coach would be mad at me. So, but he provides us the ability to go the distance, and so that changes the complexion sometimes of what the defenses you might get. It's a quarterback's best friend when teams have to defend the run and are staring at the run game, and then all of the other things on the perimeter are available to you. So love what he brings. I thought the coolest thing for Ronald, I was sitting in my kitchen and watching their Under Armour game, and he commits to us. They put him back on the field, and 4 minutes later he goes 60 and takes it to the house. And I remember going to my son saying, that's why we got that guy. You know, I mean, that's what he provides. That's what he gives you.
I don't know if you can comment on the quote-unquote blue shirts part of this, but can you just talk a little bit about the creative solutions that you're coming up with, or some ideas to kind of go beyond the 25, if at all possible?
Right. I think that the blue shirt idea for us is, you know, we obviously are limited sheer numbers-wise, and this was a way for us to bring in a couple more really talented guys and add them to our roster in training camp and count those scholarships forward, but provide depth to our roster today, you know, when we get to training camp. So, you know, it's a little bit of a unique way, but it is a way that I think is beneficial to us moving forward. I don't know how beneficial it will be for us in years to come, but this year especially felt like it was the right thing to do.
The guys who did do that, you can't talk about them specifically, but I imagine it takes probably some kind of maturity from them to kind of pass up the moment to sign the letter and say, you know, I'm going to kind of do this to kind of help out the group. You know, how do those conversations go with those guys who try and convince them?
Without a doubt. I think you're dead on. I think, you know, the guys that do this, they do have a sense of maturity about them. And I actually think of them in a higher regard, that they have the willingness to want to be at USC, and they can understand the value of the degree, the value of the experience here at SC, to make that decision, because they do miss out on some of the hoopla of signing date. But this is a 24-hour deal, the whole signing day thing. The bigger picture is the next 4 to 5 years of your life, which lead to the next 40 to 50 years of their life. And I think the guys that chose to do this, I commend them. I think it shows a great deal of maturity of what they're about, what they represent, and what they'll bring to our program in the future.
Last season, this team struggled to close out games and finish in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. You've had a few months now to reflect back on that, among many other things, I'm sure. What do you think that a class of this magnitude coming in can do to help you improve upon that and other things?
Well, I think, one, it motivates our current roster. Our guys are going to come ready to work tomorrow knowing that there's 24 guys coming that are going to come to compete. And I think that in and of itself helps in the offseason. Two, it creates a really competitive atmosphere on our practice field, knowing every day you take the field, the guy behind you, when the moment you step out and he steps in, he might be as good or better. So you continue to want to stay on the field, strive to work from a conditioning standpoint. But three, for us as a coaching staff, is as you develop this depth, your willingness to rotate players earlier in the game so that you are more fresh late in the ball game. All those things add up, and then ultimately the physicality of it all, our ability to close out games, running the football late in the game, our ability to get those critical stops on 3rd and 4th downs defensively, and how important those stops are late in the game. So it all really adds up to, we want to be a really complete football team, and we had some holes in our game last year as a team that we needed to be fixed, and I think we've addressed a lot of them.
You, between your tenure now and when you were assistant, you coached a lot of obviously really talented guys. Amon Marshall might be something different than all of that. You know, how rare of a talent is this guy who's 6'2", but can move and cover that way in space?
Well, he's unique. You know, he's unique because he plays with a real physical style. And most corners, especially in high school, they don't understand the physicality of the game. It's about footwork and ladder drills and cone drills and all the stuff they do. Iman shows up with, he does all of those things, but it's a mentality. He's going to line up and he's going to get nose to nose and he's going to try to beat you up at the line of scrimmage. And in our conference, because there's so much of the quick little quick game throws, the bubble screens, the hitches, all those things that are become such a big part of college football. These big physical corners are huge for us to take those away, to be able to come up and play hard press man-to-man and have the confidence to know I can still cover this guy if he goes deep. Iman has all of that, and it doesn't all just come totally naturally to him. This guy works his tail off, but he's very bright. He's got a very high football IQ, and ultimately, I think that that's going to lead to not only his own personal success, but it's really going to help us as a defense.
Speaking of him, what did you think of his commitment video that he released?
That was really cool. I mean, that was well done. I don't know if it totally planned for 10 minutes before he was going to announce it, but all in all, I thought it was very well done.
Do you feel you have enough guys ready to play now from this class that it makes up for whatever depth issues still exist with the sanctions?
I don't know that yet. I mean, that's a better question halfway through training camp. I haven't had a chance to be with these guys on the football field and coaching them in our schemes. Potentially, yes. Potentially, sure. We've got some other guys that are coming off injury, Jabari Ruffins, Kenny Bigelow's, those guys that, as we get them back in the fold as well, Trey Madden. So there's a lot that's going to go into this that's going to lead us to early August. And then what are we going to do those first couple weeks of training camp to start to bring this roster together to assess exactly where we're at depth-wise to maybe make up for some of the deficiency in numbers.
Do you think you still have to take certain measures early in training camp to make sure guys are staying healthy so you don't have any unexpected losses?
I don't want to, quite honestly. But again, the health of our players that are coming off injury is going to be a key component of that. I think that we have a chance now at this roster because we need to get these 24 players ready to play, and you don't get them ready to play by tagging off every play. We have to tackle, you have to block, you have to do those things. You have to practice football to get good at football.
Got time for two more? What is the status of the offensive line coach search, and do you anticipate any other changes on the staff?
I don't anticipate any other changes on the staff. I do anticipate announcing our offensive line coach in the near future. I just can't give you an exact date on that yet.
You mentioned going out of state to get those first-round type guys. A name that maybe when you got this past summer who didn't quite fit that bill, at least perception-wise, is Noah Jefferson.
Yeah.
What did you see about him that you liked the guy so much, not just towards the end of the process, but before he blew up in the summertime?
I love his upside. Noah was a basketball player. Really good feet for a man his size. He was a tight end. All of his film was at tight end, and you really see his athleticism releasing off the line of scrimmage, his hands, his footwork, his body control, his ball skills. And then to think we get him now and he's on his official visit and he's 6'5", 335 pounds, and he's just figuring out the game. I think this guy's upside is just unbelievable. And so, excited to take the physical tools and then start to shape him into a defensive lineman, which is, there's going to be some transition there, but he definitely has the physical tools to be a really good one.
Okay.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you.